Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Up now, we have The Importance of Screen-Free Coding for Our Next Generation, presented by Michael Blaustein. Michael?
Thanks so much. All right. Thanks for joining us here today. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a little bit about me, just so you understand. Oh, I got to go back. Sorry. Oh, my slide's missing. So, a little bit about me. I've had 25 plus years in the toy and game industry. This is probably now my 20th toy fair. So, time flies. I've got experience previously working at VTech Electronics and Tiger Electronics in the toys and games, and now work with a really mighty team at Learning Resources. We're right upstairs on the coding and STEM products as well. And I've had the privilege of managing a couple of Toady Award winners, Coding Critters, which won in 2020, and Botley, the coding robot, back in 2019. Really surreal stuff. So, oh, there it is. That's me playing with my absolute favorite toy, Botley, the coding robot. I want to take a little bit of time. Well, first, even before we do this, I am also the parent of a couple of kids and a 6.5-pound Yorkie. I don't recommend playing with any of the toys that I'm going to talk about here with a very small dog. They terrify them, or at least my dog. So, with that said, we're going to take some game time, a little bit of a break. You're all toy and game people. So let's play a quick game of Simon Says, right? So, I'm going to start it off. Simon says, if you'll indulge me, Simon says, raise your right arm. Simon says, put your right arm down. Simon says, raise your left arm. Simon says, shake your left hand. Now you may put it down. Okay. Thank you for those following along. Did not say Simon Says, but that leads me to the point of what we're talking about, and that's coding as a language. Did we all just learn how to code? This should be your end goal for today. You should all walk out of here knowing how to code, impress your family and friends. I learned something today at Toy Fair University. So did we just learn how to code? In a sense, we did. And I'm going to kind of walk you through why that is and how we adapt that for our toys. Sorry. So, when we talk about coding, we've got to define what coding is, right? So for our purposes, we'll define coding as the way to use language or languages, because we talk about coding as a language, to get a machine or a computer to perform a function, what we want it to do, right? So, when we use very specific language, and in our game of Simon Says, I use very specific language. I said, Simon Says, I told you what to do. You followed my instructions perfectly, for the most part. Thank you for those who did. And I wanted to make it very clear so that you understood what I was talking about. So coding or programming refers to the process of writing instructions or inputting instructions to a device or a system to get it to perform a function. In your case, raising your hands up and down. So very specific language to get a device to do what we want to do. Coding, like the game we played, is very much like that Simon Says game, particularly when we're talking about doing it in the way that we utilize it for our toys, and that is in a screen-free way. Very specific language, very simple to understand. So, when we're talking about teaching coding to preschool and kindergarten, so kids ages 4, 5, 6, want to be very specific. We're not talking about having a preschooler, with a few exceptions, sit down and start hammering out lines of code. That is not, that's not the end goal here. What we want to do is teach them the kind of foundational skills surrounding coding. So when I talk about coding for preschool, I mean things like sequential logic, problem solving, critical thinking, math skills like estimation and counting, certain amounts of creativity. These are all what we refer to as the building blocks of coding. It's a perfect way to describe it as it relates to preschool. So, why is that important? Why would I want to teach a preschooler those kind of skills, or a kindergartner those kind of skills, or even beyond that? What's the purpose of getting coding into early childhood education? Well, you can see the benefits across the board. I'm not going to enumerate all of these, but just to focus on a couple of them. Computational thinking. I mentioned sequential logic. That has applications across a variety of curriculum, whether it's actual coding, but also math, even pre-reading. Creativity and innovation, I think, being all toy people, we all value that. Problem-solving skills, collaboration and communication. Kind of a lost art over the period of COVID, right? Getting kids to work together in a process to, let's say, code a robot to move from point A to point B and to talk about it and to work together. Later on in the workforce, if they're lucky enough to be employed, they'll be doing an awful lot of collaborating and communicating. Empowerment and confidence, absolutely critical for early childhood education. And you'll see when I talk about some of the robots that we're talking about, they all have the goal and the function of empowering and giving kids that confidence that can help them succeed further on. So, everybody here probably knows STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, math. Sometimes there's an A for STEAM. You may or may not have heard of the 4 C's as it relates to STEM. So I'm going to go through a little bit of those. These are critical aspects of STEM that should be involved in any STEM lesson. So communication, touch down on that a little bit. STEM lessons in a classroom and even at home have communication as a key aspect of it, and particularly for coding, when what we're talking about is coding as a language. Obviously, that's a form of communication. Collaboration, again, touched on it. The very best STEM lessons and lesson plans and STEM toys have aspects of working together to collaborate to problem solve. That's sort of at the heart of STEM, right? Critical thinking goes hand in hand. How do you solve problems? What are the key ways to solve a problem? Thinking about other ways to solve a problem, the best processes. And creativity. So it seems like the opposite of coding, right? When you think of coding, you're thinking of clackety-clack, typing out computer code. That seems like tedious, but creativity is a key part of solving a problem by coding or any kind of STEM problem. Now, surprise, I've added a 5th C, not typically referred to, and that's confidence, and that's really what we're talking about here. If I've got a coding toy, and I happen to have brought a coding toy here. This was our very first one, nod if you know this one. It's the Code and Go robot mouse. It couldn't be more simple. I'll show you how it works in just a moment. Has an effect where when you code this robot mouse in a screen-free way, just using the simple buttons, when it reaches its little piece of cheese, I'm going to let you in on a secret. There's a magnet here and a magnet in the cheese. The mouse catches the cheese, lights up, gives you a little reward. That helps instill confidence in a child, knowing they successfully coded the mouse to get to the cheese. They get a little reward, and that engages them to further play, explore, and learn. All right, so lots of research. A recent study just talked about the introduction of coding robots in the classroom and the benefits of introducing coding robots into early childhood classrooms. Specifically with this study, how it engaged students and improved their math skills after just a few lessons of using these robots. Right there you're seeing our Botley 2.0, great for kindergarten classrooms. So the recommendation, at least from this article in Education Week, was about getting an early start by introducing screen-free coding robots into early childhood classrooms to engage kids and have benefits across multiple different curriculum. So, talked about the benefits in math. Let's talk about coding again as a language. So when you think about coding, you think probably, various coding languages, Java, Python, C++, BASIC, all the ones that you heard that are just like, make your mind kind of glaze over, right? This is not something for me, right? But just like a spoken language, any spoken language that we utilize, coding has its own syntax, and so that follows with the coding robots that we make and are talking about in childhood classrooms. So the emphasis being on correct syntax, arranging your commands on a robot in the right order, communication and comprehension. So again, let's talk about that language because we talked about them being super simple. I want to show you exactly how simple. We'll use our friend Botley, the coding robot here. So Botley is simple. He really only speaks a very few words, has a very simple vocabulary. At Botley's basic form, his vocabulary is about 5 words. Go forward, go back, turn right, turn left, and go. There's a couple other ones there for more advanced coding, teaching if-then logic, etc. But really at its heart, it's a very simple vocabulary that makes it age appropriate. And by the way, if you haven't played around with Botley, I highly recommend it. Again, my dog can't stand him, but Botley has Botley has my heart. So, all right. So the benefits of a screen-free language, right? You can see them all here. Using a coding robot and teaching it as a language has benefits across general language skills. So if you can build a code sequence of forward, forward, right, forward, you're engaging in the same kind of activity that you might when you're learning how to read or arrange words in a sentence to best communicate an idea. Strong foundational skills for absorbing other languages. My own son grew up taking a second language at a very early age. He now speaks a second language at age 15, almost fluently, which is really remarkable because he started early. I'll touch on that in a second. Promoting cognitive development, reducing screen time. Kids spent a lot of time on screens during COVID. A screen-free robot that teaches the same kind of coding skills that you might get with a language like Scratch Junior or Blockly or other screen-based coding. Gets them away from the screens for a moment. And then I mentioned the encouraging collaboration and social interaction. So why do it early? Again, early childhood, a child's mind has the capability to absorb languages much better than old folks such as myself. My mind's not quite as nimble for adopting a language. I would not try to learn a language now at my age, but early childhood, 4 or 5, the brain is growing like a sponge. It's much easier to understand new rules of language development. So, since we've talked about coding as a language, it follows it's easier to learn the basics of coding. So, just to follow up again, keys to success here, right? When we have a robot in the classroom, introducing the simple coding concepts, treat them like games. Give them a fun character. We happen to have named this mouse Colby, which is really pretty cute, because cheese, right, and mice. Apply a story to it. Make learning fun. Gamify your coding lessons. And then keep it simple. We've deliberately kept this simple. There's not a lot of extra buttons on here. It's very approachable. You pick it up, and within just a few minutes, you can build your very first code sequences. Entertaining and, of course, engaging. And I mentioned that anecdote about the mouse and the cheese here. My own son, who's 15 now, is in an AP computer program, and he was there for the development of this Code and Go robot mouse. He designed half of the mazes that we use in the product, and did them in a way that it would be most rewarding and engaging when the mouse finally got to the cheese. And to see him now still embracing those kind of coding skills and having the confidence to decide, yeah, I'm going to take advanced placement computer programming, it's nothing's more rewarding than that. I am going to actually wrap it up, and I'll be answering questions about our products and anything else related to coding or New York and the New York Knicks right down there. Thanks so much.